Hello everyone, I'm Rogeline Vicurante and I'm going to discuss to you the instructional materials and development process. The instructional materials and development process. This refers to the systematic and thoughtful approach taken to create educational resources that effectively support teaching and learning. This process ensures that the materials are aligned with specific learning objectives, cater to the needs of the target audience, and are engaging and effective in facilitating learning. Below is a general outline of the instructional materials development process. The needs assessment and analysis, writing instructional objectives and content, designing visuals and multimedia elements, reviewing and revising instructional materials, and formatting and production considerations. The needs assessment and analysis. These are critical initial steps in the instructional materials development process. They involve gathering information and data to identify the specific educational needs and requirements of the target audience. Here's a more detailed explanation of the needs assessment and analysis process. Step 1. Define the purpose and scope. Determine what specific goals the instructional materials should accomplish, the target audience, and the context in which the materials will be used. Step 2. Collect data. Use various methods to gather relevant data about the learners and their learning environment. This can include surveys and questionnaires, interviews and focus groups, existing data and reports, and observation. And after collecting data, you identify the learning objectives. Based on the data collected, determine the specific learning objectives that the instructional materials should address. Step 4. Analyze learner characteristics, including their age, academic level, prior knowledge, cultural background, and learning preferences. Step 5. Assess content relevance. Evaluate the relevance of the existing curriculum or educational content, if any, in meeting the learning objectives and addressing the identified needs. Determine if any gaps or deficiencies exist that the new instructional materials should fill. Step 6. Consider accessibility and inclusivity. Take into account the diverse needs of learners, including those with disabilities or specific learning challenges. Ensure that the materials are accessible and inclusive for all learners. The step 7, analyze resource availability. Consider the resources available for the development and implementation of the instructional materials. This includes considering budget constraints, technology infrastructure, and availability of skilled personnel. Step 8. Engage stakeholders. Involve key stakeholders such as teachers, administrators, parents, and community members in the needs assessment process. Step 9. Synthesize findings. Analyze and synthesize the data collected during the needs assessment process. Identify common themes, patterns, and priorities that emerge from the data to inform the instructional materials development. Then step 10, formulate needs assessment report. Prepare a comprehensive needs assessment report that documents the findings, analysis, and recommendations, this is the last step. Once the needs assessment and analysis phase is complete, the instructional materials development process moves on to the curriculum design and content creation, where the data gathered in this phase plays a crucial role in shaping the materials, content, and format. And this is all about the needs assessment and analysis. The second general outline is writing instructional objectives and content. Instructional objectives define what learners are expected to achieve, while content involves creating the actual educational material that facilitates learning. Here's a step-by-step guide for this phase. Step 1. Review learning objectives. Start by reviewing the learning objectives identified during the needs assessment phase. These objectives should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, or commonly known as SMART. Step 2. Align objectives with Bloom's taxonomy, which categorizes cognitive skills into levels such as remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. And step 3, develop instructional objectives. Instructional objectives break down the learning objectives into actionable and observable outcomes. Step 4, organize content. Organize instructional content in a logical and coherent manner. Step 5, choose appropriate media and format. This may include text-based materials, videos, interactive activities, simulations, graphics, or a combination of various media. Step 6. Create engaging content. Develop content that is engaging, interactive, and relevant to the learners. Use real-life examples, case studies, and scenarios to make the material relatable and applicable to practical situations. Step 7. Address different learning styles. Design the content to accommodate various learning styles, such as visual, auditory, kinesthetic, or reading or writing learners. Step 8. Incorporate active learning strategies. These can include discussions, group activities, problem-solving exercises, and hands-on projects. Step 9. Use clear and concise language. Ensure that the content is easily understandable by the target audience. Step 10. Include assessment and feedback. Integrate formative assessments, for example, quizzes, practice exercises, throughout the instructional materials to gauge learners' progress and understanding. Then step 11, review for accuracy and quality. Check for any errors, inconsistencies, or outdated information. Step 12, prototype and pilot. Develop a prototype or pilot version of the instructional materials and test them with a small group of learners or educators. Gather feedback and make necessary revisions based on their input. 13. Finalize the materials. Incorporate the feedback received during the prototyping and pilot testing. Make any necessary adjustments to improve the materials. Step 14. Create instructor or facilitator guides. Create accompanying guides to help them effectively deliver the content and facilitate learning if there is an instructor or a facilitator. Then step 15, accessibility considerations. Ensure that the materials are accessible to all learners, including those with disabilities. Provide alternative formats and considerations for learners who may have specific needs. Designing visuals and multimedia elements. Visuals and multimedia elements enhance the learning experience, make the content more engaging, and cater to different learning styles. Here's a step-by-step guide for designing visuals and multimedia elements. Step 1. Identify learning objectives and content. Before creating visuals and multimedia elements, ensure a clear understanding of the learning objectives and the content that needs to be conveyed. Step 2. Determine visual strategy. Decide on the types of visuals and multimedia elements that will best convey the information. We have common types of visuals. Those includes images and illustrations, charts and graphs, infographics, videos and animations, and interactive media. Step 3. Maintain visual consistency. This includes using the same color scheme, font types, and design elements to create a cohesive look and feel. Avoid clutter and unnecessary details that may distract from the main message. Step 4. Emphasize clarity and simplicity. Keep visuals clear and simple to avoid overwhelming learners. Step 5. Ensure relevance. Avoid using visuals solely for decoration. They should add value to the learning experience. Then step 6. Use universal design principles. Employ universal design principles to make visuals accessible to all learners, including those with disabilities. Then step 7. Optimize loading times for digital materials. If creating digital instructional materials, optimize multimedia elements to reduce loading times. Large file sizes can disrupt the learning experience, particularly for learners with limited internet connectivity. Step 8. Incorporate interactivity where appropriate. Interactive quizzes, drag and drop activities, and clickable elements can be effective learning tools. Step 9. Seek feedback. Share the visuals and multimedia elements with peers, subject matter experts, and potential learners to gather feedback. Then step 10. Copyright and attribution. Ensure that all visuals and multimedia elements used in the instructional materials comply with copyright laws. Properly attribute sources and obtain necessary permissions when using external content. Step 11. Test for compatibility. If creating digital materials, ensure that the visuals and multimedia elements are compatible with different devices and platforms, including desktop computers, tablets, and mobile devices. Then, step 12, finalize visuals and multimedia elements. The last stage or the last step. After incorporating feedback and making necessary adjustments, finalize the visuals and multimedia elements to be integrated into the instructional materials. Effective use of visuals and multimedia elements can significantly enhance the learning experience, making complex concepts more understandable and memorable for learners. The fourth general outline is reviewing and revising instructional materials. After creating the initial draft of instructional materials, they go through a thorough review process. Peer review, expert evaluation, and feedback from potential users help identify any errors, inconsistencies, or areas for improvement. Reviewing and revising instructional materials are crucial steps in the development process to ensure the materials are accurate, effective, and aligned with the learning objectives. This iterative process involves seeking feedback, making improvements, and fine-tuning the materials based on evaluation results. Here's a step-by-step guide for reviewing and revising instructional materials. Step 1. Internal review. Conduct an internal review with the development team, including instructional designers, subject matter experts, and other stakeholders. Step 2. Content accuracy. Verify the accuracy of the content by cross-referencing with reputable resources and subject matter experts. Step 3. Instructional alignment. Check whether the instructional materials effectively address the learning objectives identified in the needs assessment phase. Step 4. Clarity and readability. Ensure that the language used is appropriate for the target audiences, age, grade level, or professional background. Then step 5. Visual and multimedia elements. Evaluate the effectiveness of visual multimedia elements and the interactive components. Then step 6. Pedagogical effectiveness. Determine if the materials actively engage learners and promote deeper understanding of the subject matter. Step 7. Accessibility and inclusivity. Verify the materials are accessible to all learners, including those with disabilities. Step 9. User testing. Conduct user testing with a representative group of learners who match the target audience. Step 10. Analyze evaluation results. Identify recurring issues or suggestions for improvement. Step 11. Revision plan. Develop a detailed plan for revising the instructional materials based on the feedback and evaluation results. Step 12. Collaborative revision. Address any content-related issues. Adjust visuals and multimedia elements, and refine instructional strategies. Step 13. Pilot test revised materials. Gather additional feedback to ensure that the improvements have addressed the identified issues. Step 14. Final review and approval. Conduct a final review to ensure that all the necessary revisions have been made. And lastly, step 15. Continuous improvement. Even after the materials are completed and implemented, continuously seek feedback from educators and learners. Consider making updates and improvements as needed to keep the materials relevant and effective. Remember that the instructional materials development process is iterative, and feedback and revisions are essential for creating high-quality materials that support effective teaching and learning. And finally, formatting and production considerations. Formatting and production considerations play a crucial role in the finalization and distribution of instructional materials. This phase involves preparing the materials for printing or digital distribution, ensuring consistency in layout, and making the materials visually appealing and accessible. Here's the step-by-step guide for formatting and production considerations. Step 1. Standardized formatting guidelines. Establish clear and consistent formatting guidelines for the entire set of instructional materials. Step 2. Incorporate branding, if applicable. If the instructional materials are part of an existing educational program or organization, incorporate branding elements such as logos, color schemes, and design motifs to maintain visual consistency with the brand identity. Step 3. Typesetting and layout design. Professionally typeset and design the instructional materials for both print and digital formats. Step 4. Visual hierarchy. Employ headings, subheadings, bullet points, and other formatting techniques to emphasize important information and facilitate content organization. Step 5. Multimedia integration. If there are multimedia elements, for example, the images, videos, interactive components, ensure they are integrated seamlessly into the materials. Step 6. Proofreading and editing. Conduct thorough proofreading and editing to eliminate any spelling, grammar, or formatting errors. Step 7. Test for compatibility for digital materials. For digital materials, test compatibility across different devices and platforms, for example, desktops, tablets, smartphones, to ensure a consistent user experience. And step 8, print considerations. If the materials will be printed, ensure that the layout and formatting are suitable for the printing process. Step 9. Digital distribution considerations. For digital distribution, consider the file formats that will be used, for example, PDF, EPUB, HTML, and ensure that the files are optimized for online viewing and download. Step 10. File management and organization. Maintain a well-organized file structure for the instructional materials. This makes it easier for distribution, updates, and future revisions. Step 11. Accessibility considerations. Ensure that the materials are accessible to all learners, including those with disabilities. Step 12. Copyright and permissions. Confirm that all images, multimedia elements, and content used in the materials comply with copyright laws and that the proper permissions have been obtained for any third-party content. And step 13, quality control. Conduct a final quality control to check or verify that all aspects of the formatting and production process have been executed accurately and according to the established guidelines. And step 14, print or distribute. Once the instructional materials have undergone final review and approval, proceed with printing, if applicable, or digital distribution to the intended audience. And lastly, gather user feedback. After distribution, gather user feedback from educators and learners. By paying close attention to formatting and production considerations, you can ensure that the instructional materials are visually appealing, accessible, and ready to support effective teaching and learning experiences. And those are the systematic and thoughtful approach to create educational resources that effectively support teaching and learning. And that would be all. Thank you so much.